I met this lady one time. She was saying, the important thing is not figuring out how to do it. It's just figuring out what you want to do and starting to talk about it with as many people as you can, because the people around you will actually be those connectors that help you get to the next steps.
In a situation like that, you're working at the magazine and the magazine folds. And so now you're like, what are we going to do? Right? We need to do something. And I look at gaps. Like sometimes there's a confidence gap, sometimes there's a skill gap, and sometimes there's an opportunity or a network gap. It seemed to me like you're not short of confidence. Your network of friends that you said had been bothering you about doing something, so you had opportunities. You use those 3 years wisely to close whatever skill gap. But I kind of have to think if you showed your portfolio at that time, it'd just be a bunch of ads, and ads generally are not that sexy. Did you feel at that point in time that you had the skills, you just didn't have the proof of that in the work that you were doing?
So I think I always really wanted to do that. I just knew that like you said, the skills, maybe I hadn't had the opportunity, and also I just hadn't learned the programs to do like the more fun work, the more like creative work. I had mostly just been a kind of a yes man for clients to get their ad done. So yeah, that first year was just taking on projects, really any project we could. We were not at all picky at first. But then on the side, we were doing passion work. So we made a lot of, just stuff that we thought was cool to try and build a style. Exactly. Yeah.
Work that you did just for you.
Yeah, exactly. And almost always when you make something for you to practice a skill and you do more than 10, people grab onto that. People like that kind of thing.
I think those daily or weekly exercises that you give yourself a prompt, so you don't have to really think about the assignment, that there's a lot of constraints that you work within. Those are great portfolio building exercises that can lead to a lot of different things, like great marketing materials to get clients or potentially turn into a product that pays for itself. I like that. One thing I want to quickly highlight is that whether or not you had it, Jen, Amy had it, right? So she had this belief that she was going to be a world famous designer and everybody's going to celebrate that. So then she just needed to manifest that into reality. And so I think that's something for people to understand. We're giggling about it. We're laughing about it because like, who is she to think, she's so superior to everybody else, right? But you need a little bit of that. You really do. So each and every single person who's listening to this, think about this future state where you've achieved not all of your goals, but some of your goals. And then once you magnetize yourself to that goal, the means and the methods will appear. Oh yeah, it's so true. Well, and I met this lady one time. She was saying, the important thing is not figuring out how you're going to do it, which that sounds really like naive, but hear me out. She said the important thing is not figuring out how to do it. It's just figuring out what you want to do and starting to talk about it with as many people as you can, because the people around you will actually be those connectors that help you get to the next steps. And now, of course, logically try and thinking through like how the best way you would do it is, but don't close yourself off to just talking it out with people, because they'll say, oh my gosh, I know someone who wants something like that. And they will actually make better connections for you than you could ever just dream up out of nowhere, right? Because it's the real world and you just can't plan ahead for the perfect scenario. So yes, plan, because planning is smart, but then also just talk about it. And it just goes to show like, Amy was way more confident probably than I was. If I was probably left to my own devices, I would probably just go to work for someone else like my whole life, even though I do like doing my own thing. It speaks to how important it is to have community around you, and just to like hold yourself accountable by telling people what you want to do and then letting them actually kind of like ride you on it, like being like, where is that at? Like, why haven't you finished that? Like, like having people who can kind of call you on your stuff so that you can like push yourself to the next level, if that's what you want. Not everybody wants to be constantly like harassed and harangued, but I actually kind of like having friends who really like talk honestly with me about things that I've said I want to do. I think it's so neat and special that you have a friend, a sister, and a business partner, and someone who has very complementary personality traits, where she, as far as I know, comes across as the rebel, the risk taker. I don't care if it works out because I'll make it work. And then you're like the pragmatic, like, let's get this thing done. And so she can jump first. And you're like, how's the parachute? Did it already? What parachute? Right? I didn't know I needed a parachute. Right? And then you're like, oh, she didn't die. I'll jump too now. Right. But it's a combination of those two things. And it's very rare and special that you have that, especially because you're sisters, and it works out really well.